Hey everyone, RogueGold here. As you could likely tell by the title, we've got a dev interview to show off today with the Division 2's creative director. Very excited for it. A couple of quick things I wanted to say before jumping into it though, as I don't give a whole lot of intro once it starts. As you will be able to tell once we get into this was conducted at Massive Entertainment itself while I was visiting last month for our preview event of the Battle for Brooklyn DLC in Year 7. Reason why I wanted to mention that was mostly due to my question selection. The topic of this interview was on the development process of the DLC, some of the design decisions made. The timing of this interview, however, was only a few hours after the reveal and presentation that we were given of the DLC, and it was immediately after the 2-hour demo that we got to play, which, by the way, if you want more of my thoughts on what I got to play for the DLC, I've got a video up for that. I'll link it up in the corner and down in the description. But I say that in order to emphasize I did not have a ton of time to process everything prior to the interview. A lot of the info was still sinking in. Had there been a larger gap between all of these events, perhaps I would have changed a few things here and there, but what you'll see is a mixture of some broader questions that I had workshopped prior to the reveal and knowing anything about the DLC, and then a few more specific ones that I reworked and wrote in just before sitting down. That's all, just wanted to give a little context there. There's still some great info in here, can't wait for you all to see it. Big thanks to Yannick for taking the time to do this, thanks to Massive for putting it all together, but without further ado, here it is. Hello Yannick.
Hello.
Thank you for doing this. This is amazing. I think the fact that last time we spoke like this, it was digitally celebrating Division 2 coming back.
Yes.
And now there's a DLC launching and we're here in Massive.
It was a long time ago also when we talked. I don't know. Feels like another life.
But it's pretty spectacular. So thank you for taking the time. I wanted to ask you a few things about the DLC production and launch, since that's the huge thing coming up. So let's just kick it off. When did the idea to originally do a DLC come about? Because we know it was originally announced as part of Year 5.
Yeah.
That was, I imagine, conceptualized quite a long time ago, like in 2022 or something. So how did you make the leap from let's revive the game overall to let's make a DLC?
Well, that was some time ago. That was, yes, when we were working on Year 4, and after we had started making new content and kind of the machine was working again, we started asking ourselves, okay, what's the next step? And okay, we can make new seasons, that's fine. We made a game mode, we made Countdown. So it was like we wanted to be ambitious, we wanted to do more, we really wanted to secure the future of this project and not just be in survival mode in a way, but really to try to own our own future. And so the idea of like, what about we actually make a new map? What about we actually make a DLC, like a big meaningful piece of content? And we all got really excited about that. So that was, the idea of making a DLC is something that came pretty quickly as soon as we started releasing content again. Right. Now turning that into a concrete plan and then an actual piece of content, and then that took some time. But yeah.
Fantastic. One of the, after seeing kind of the pitch and presentation of what it's going to be, one of the biggest surprises to me, not that you guys set any different expectations, but I just think what a lot of people assumed based off of hearing that a DLC was coming was that it would be mostly tied to the main story. Yeah. So what kind of motivated the idea to make it a more standalone experience?
Well, we really wanted that to be a moment for everyone. So what we thought is, okay, we can either make that directly part of the season storyline and a big moment in, whatever are the events of the seasons.
Sure.
Or we can actually try to do something that is a bit separate. And we wanted to do it separate because we wanted to make sure that everybody hopefully would be excited about that. So no matter if last time you played the Division was with Division 1, with Division 2, with Warlords of New York, or even if you've never played the Division, we wanted everybody to feel welcome and not be intimidated by, asking themselves the question, it sounds cool, but I probably won't get it. So we really wanted to make sure that this is something that's appealing and exciting for everybody, and therefore we decided to make it an isolated story. But once again, it is connected to seasons as as in if you play seasons, there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of references, and eventually it kind of converges with the season storyline. But if you haven't played those, you're not missing out. You will still be able to understand what's happening.
So coming in, people won't need the backlog of NGN videos to catch
Hopefully
up on
you
what's
won't
going
have
on.
to. I mean, you can do that. I recommend to do that. It's always better, but it's you don't have to watch all those videos now.
Cool. As I'm sure you know, if Division players had their way, the entire globe would be explorable, or a map. People want to see a million different locations. So how did you ultimately decide on going back to Brooklyn as the setting for this?
Well, we had a lot of discussions on where would we go, and there were options that were like, okay, let's stay close to where we are, let's explore areas around Washington or other places, and there were options where we wanted to go explore other places, and there was a lot of back and forth, and then someone in the team just said, yeah, how about we go to Brooklyn, and it just clicked somehow for all of us. We're like, okay, yeah, Brooklyn, that's perfect because it's like. It's close, it still means something to our players, it's still New York, but on the other hand, it has its own identity, there's a history because that's where the Division 1 started.
Right.
So the moment the name was mentioned, then we all knew that this was the right call.
Yeah. In light of that, I'm curious how the process went of creating it, because we know that for Warlords or Division 2 before that or Division 1, there's stuff like location scouting, trips they're taking to get the feel for things, but this is also the first time that we're returning to a location that we've been to, like you said, after a long period of time. So how did the process maybe differ this time around compared to creating other locations?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of research, but it's a kind of like a research on two tracks, because on one hand there's the authenticity research to like looking at Brooklyn as it is, and really looking street by street and exploring, like digitally exploring Brooklyn and trying to bring something that is as true to the original as the real Brooklyn as it is.
Yeah.
But then there's the exploration of, okay, Brooklyn as we depicted it in the Division 1, because we also want it to be true to that and respect that memory. So it was, let's look at Brooklyn, let's look at what was playable in Division 1. That's one part of our map. Our map is, of course, bigger than that, but at least that one part, we wanted to make sure that we respect that, plus then taking into account all the events that we set in our story, the hurricane and everything that happened around New York. So there's a lot of layers there that are added on top of that. So all of that is research that had to be done before we could even start sketching what Brooklyn would actually look like.
Because this still utilizes that same like 1-to-1 scale that's Division 2 based in, right?
Yeah, it's still 1-to-1 scale. It's still the actual streets of Brooklyn, the real, geometry and the real buildings and all of that. So if you're from Brooklyn, hopefully you might recognize some streets.
Another big change that's coming that's pretty apparent is the season change to autumn. I'm curious how that came about in your guys' mind, why you wanted to do that. And I know you've talked about there were some big tech changes that went into that. Can you talk about maybe some of the challenges or process there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like on one hand we were working on Brooklyn, and we wanted Brooklyn because it was kind of connected to what we had done, but we wanted to give it a different identity. We wanted to respect the fact that time is advancing, and we wanted to show the passage of time. We know people have been, experiencing summer for many years in the Division 2, so we thought this was the right time to try to bring something a bit different. So the idea of bringing it to autumn made sense for us. Because it's still, it's just the next step after the summer. Like we're reaching the end of the summer in our timeline, and it makes sense that you start seeing first signs of autumn. But also, the color palette, the graphics, the identity of autumn fits very well with Brooklyn and with the story we wanted to tell, and bring that, all this yellow and orange and all these colors. So it felt right. And as you said, it was. There was a lot of technical challenges to doing that, because bringing a whole new season, it's not just a question of the color of the leaves. It's also a question of the whole, the technology behind. How do the leaves actually interact with the rest? The physics of leaves falling on the agent, falling on the props in the street, and all those things. So there was actually a lot of work to bring this to reality, but I think the result really allows us to have something that really stands out as visually different.
So can the leaves then happen like dynamically, the same as maybe snow in the Division 1 or the rain in Division 2, where it can build up on props and the character and all that?
Yeah, the leaves can build up, the leaves will fly with the wind and depending and react to the weather. So there's a lot of work that went into nerdy details like that.
Yeah, I know people will hate me if I don't ask, because we now have autumn in Brooklyn. Any chance that ever goes to DC and New York to spice up the visual variety there?
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how we do that. it's one thing to build a map with that in mind. It's another thing to actually take it and bring it to an existing map. That would be a huge amount of work. But who knows what the future will hold.
Another big surprise for me was to see the return of Smart Cover in this DLC. Yes. It's also, I believe, the first time this new dev team is making a new skill, or new enough. So how was kind of the process of creating that, and now that this work has been done on that, does it open the door to potentially more skills in the future?
Yeah, so it was the same. It was really this idea of like we wanted to have at least a gameplay incentive for playing Brooklyn. We wanted to have something that you would take away with you and keep in the rest of the game that would add to your arsenal. So the idea of bringing a skill made a lot of sense. We did that with Warlords of New York as well. So we wanted to try to do that with Brooklyn. And we came to Smart Cover, like either we would have created a whole new skill or we could reuse something existing. And it made sense for us to go back to a Division 1 skill because you're going to Brooklyn again. This is the memory. This is the nostalgia. So so we wanted to rebuild one from Division 1. And then it came down to Smart Cover because it's, to me at least, having been on Division 1 for some time, it was like one of the iconic skills when it comes to... to the end game and to the team composition and mobile cover. And that one is never coming back. But Smart Cover, I think there's a lot of very interesting things we could do with it and how it's going to actually change the way people approach encounters in the entire game. So gameplay-wise, it's interesting. It's interesting for memory. It's connected to New York and to Brooklyn, so it made a lot of sense.
Yeah. And any chance we'll get more in the future, you think?
Well, it's not impossible. I mean, that's an experience we've built now. We've made we've made a new one, so we will see.
Cool. Wanted to ask a bit more of like a personal question on the development of this to you. Do you think this project and this DLC has been the most difficult thing for you in your time as creative director in terms of coming up with story and themes and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. I think it's such a big endeavor, and I think I personally learned a lot in the process because it's one thing to make seasons, it's one thing to make game modes, to make things like that, but making a full cohesive experience that is like a new map, new missions, new story, new characters, new all of that. That was a very different experience, and it was super enriching, but of course a big challenge, but the right kind of challenge.
Yeah, and similar to what you just said, it's also this development team's first time making a DLC package like this. To you, or from your perspective, what were some of the most rewarding and most challenging parts of the production?
Well, I think challenging parts is just the trying to find the right way to work together on a piece of content like that, like kind of rebuilding the processes on how do we actually create a map and how do we put the content, who does what, who makes the decisions, who defines what goes where and all of that. There was a lot of things that we kind of had to redefine. So that was probably one of the challenges. I think we've solved all of them by now, and we come out of that a much stronger team. And rewarding, I think, you take when we reach the end of the production where we're at now, when you see it, there's this moment where suddenly it clicks. And then like every week it just gets better and you can really see that and you feel the energy from the team as well because everybody sees the progress that is made. I think this is one of the best moments. The best moment will probably be when it actually comes out. And hopefully people will be happy about it.
Which is not too long from now. So
yes.
So you just said the team came out stronger on the other side. Now that you guys have a DLC under your belt, we know Division 2 is not over yet with Year 7 on the way. Do you think more content like this is at least on the table for the future?
Well, at least now we know how to do it.
Right.
Then it's going to be up to the reaction and see how people like it. But if they do, I would love to keep doing these kind of things.
Totally. Well, then to close off, I have to ask you kind of the cliche question. What do you think you are most excited for players to experience or discover when Battle for Brooklyn launches?
The secrets. There's
a lot.
There's a lot of secrets. There's one in particular that I don't want to say, but that's a callback to Division 1 that I'm quite attached to, and I think it's going to speak to a lot of people. So when they will find out, I think they will know what I mean.
Fantastic. Well, that's all I have. I can't wait to play, and I'm sure everyone else feels the same. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
So, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed getting a few greater details on Battle for Brooklyn here. Again, huge thank you to Yannick and all parties involved for making this interview happen. It was an absolute honor not only to get to do this, but to do it within the halls of Massive itself. It's still hard to believe that that entire trip even happened. That's it for this one, though. We'd love to hear your thoughts and reactions down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.